Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. Of the over 70% of our planet covered by water, just 3% is fresh, falling and collecting as rain, freezing as ice, and running again as meltwater. This surprisingly limited resource has shaped a multitude of ecosystems around the world. In this episode, we explore these diverse environments and the wildlife that has evolved in concert with them. We will encounter congregations of great egrets, hunt the waterways with dragonflies, learn the secrets of Platypus, bask with hippopotamuses, and learn the specialties of freshwater crocodiles. A widely distributed species, the great egret is an elegant yet customary presence in tropical and temperate freshwater ecosystems throughout the world. Standing up to a metre tall, this nimble, long-legged bird with its extendable S-shaped neck is perfectly designed to capitalize on the feeding opportunities that flowing or standing freshwater provides. For egrets, freshwater environments offer the perfect hunting ground. Feeding on fish, frogs, aquatic reptiles, and insects, they slowly patrol the shallows, waiting for prey to come within striking distance of their blade-like bill. Once speared, the meal is swallowed whole. But egrets are not always at the top of the food chain and must remain vigilant if they are to stay off the menu themselves. Their stylish appearance is no accident, and egrets preen themselves fastidiously. Their name is a derivation of a French word meaning both silver heron and brush, a reference to the long, wispy feathers that the birds grow during their breeding season in order to perform courtship displays. Breeding season draws egrets, as well as other water birds, into large congregations around the waterways. Once a mate is found, the great egret forms a monogamous relationship in which parenting duties are shared. Both sexes construct the nest, a platform of sticks above the water that they will depend upon in order to provide for their young. Even abundant freshwater systems can experience lean times, and dense nesting populations can stretch limited resources even further. For the egret, if the parents cannot deliver sufficient protein to their chicks, aggression in the nest is common. With hatchlings turning on each other, deaths often occur, with the dominant chicks surviving to receive a greater share of whatever food their parents can bring in. A partially migratory species, egrets in the northern hemisphere will join other freshwater birds and fly south to avoid the colder winters. Relatively slow on the wing, egrets are efficient in the air, and with just 2 wing beats a second, they can attain cruising speeds of 40 kilometers an hour. A conservation success story, the great egret was severely overhunted in the 19th century for their plumage, which was used to decorate ladies' hats. Legal protection over the last century has seen the numbers of the bird return to healthy levels, and today, egrets are expanding their range. While habitat loss is a serious concern to many freshwater species, the great egret appears more comfortable with the human presence and is frequently found in urban bodies of water, demonstrating that this glorious bird is here to stay.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen, all for free. No subscription required. Download Veely now.
One of the most dexterous and agile predators of freshwater systems, the dragonfly has an unexpectedly close bond with the water. With an estimated 5,000 species spread across every continent except Antarctica, there is no shortage of variety amongst these dazzling insects. Their common features include a heavy body supporting 2 pairs of wings, a long, slender abdomen, and massive, complex eyes that provide incredible vision to assist in both hunting and avoiding predation. But while dragonflies are most commonly known in their winged adult stage, this is only a small part of their life cycle, lasting just a few days or weeks. The vast majority of the dragonfly's life, up to several years, is spent in the water, hidden from view as aquatic larvae. Their veined, membranous wings mean that dragonflies are not only capable of flying in any direction, they can also cover 100 body lengths per second, perform high-speed maneuvers, or hover perfectly still in mid-air. Their flight is so specialized that they will only eat prey caught on the wing. And consuming as much as 1/5 of their body weight per day, dragonflies play an important role in controlling freshwater insect populations such as mosquitoes. But dragonflies are not the only predators around the waterways, and within a spider's web, their short lives as adults can come to an even earlier end. Many male dragonflies are territorial. Claiming a feeding area near the water, they will zealously defend it against rivals, for a few minutes or for several hours. As cold-blooded creatures, dragonflies need to maintain their flight muscles at a suitable temperature, and waterside plants allow them to bask in the sun while surveying for prey. When a female is drawn into a male's territory, a uniquely choreographed mating ritual can commence. Often occurring in mid-flight, the male grasps the female by the head while she curves her abdomen to create a heart posture and receive his sperm. Egg-laying then takes place, sometimes with the couple still attached. Depending on the species, the female may deposit her eggs directly in the water or inject them into certain aquatic plants for incubation. Although a seemingly abundant creature, there is much still to be learnt about dragonflies, and habitat destruction is a serious concern. Given that dragonflies are most abundant in rainforest freshwater systems, deforestation means that species are potentially being lost before they can even be named. As with so many animals in the natural world, the best policy to preserve them is to preserve the environment they depend on. Perhaps the greatest misfit of the natural world, the platypus appears a curious composite of aquatic animals. But this mysterious creature is, in fact, a highly successful freshwater specialist. From cold alpine rivers to tropical rainforest streams, the platypus is endemic to eastern Australia and occupies a varying range of freshwater habitat here. Part duck, part beaver, part otter, it is such an unlikely creature that when scientists first studied a specimen in the 18th century, it was deemed a hoax. One of only 5 species of egg-laying mammals, or monotremes, a platypus's unusual adaptations are precisely the reason for its success in its freshwater environment. Covered in dense brown fur, the platypus's waterproof coat traps an insulating layer of air against their body to maintain a constant temperature. Webbed feet aid in swimming and maneuverability through the water. And their beaver-like tail is used to store fat reserves to see them through times when feed is scarce. While their rubbery snout appears duck-like, it is a far more advanced sensory organ. Closing their eyes and nostrils during their dives, platypus do not hunt by sight or smell, but through electroreception. Sweeping their bill from side to side, they detect the faint electric fields generated by their prey. Even in the murkiest conditions, platypus are able to locate and dig out their quarry, storing it in cheek pouches before returning to the surface to eat. Needing to eat around 20% of their body weight each day, platypus spend a daily average of 12 hours searching for food. With each dive lasting approximately 30 seconds, much of this time is spent on the surface, either floating while breathing through the nostrils on the top of their snout, or resting up out of the water. Another of the platypus's many oddities is the fact that males are venomous, a rare trait amongst mammals. Capable of injecting a powerful toxin through the spurs of their hind feet, the purpose of this adaptation remains a mystery. The fact that females lack this attribute leads researchers to speculate that it may be used during breeding season as males fight each other to secure mating privileges. Today, their greatest threat is habitat degradation, particularly through damming and irrigation of the waterways. A retiring and elusive animal, platypus numbers are hard to establish. But what is certain is that healthy waterways are key to maintaining healthy populations. Vital to life on the land, most terrestrial creatures depend in some way on freshwater ecosystems for their survival. In Africa, one land animal has taken this relationship to the extreme: the hippopotamus. Tipping the scales at up to 2 tons, the barrel-bodied hippopotamus is among the largest terrestrial animals on the planet. With a diet made up entirely of grass, during the cool evenings and nights of sub-Saharan Africa, the hippo spends hours grazing on land. Traveling up to 10 kilometers from the water in single-file pathways, their feeding sessions can wear muddy tracks into the landscape. Feeding aside, every other aspect of the hippopotamus's life takes place in or around the water, and they have evolved an array of adaptations to their amphibious existence. With eyes, ears, and nostrils situated on top of their skulls, the hippopotamus is able to keep these sensory organs above the waterline while the rest of the body is submerged. Although their thick, hairless skin secretes a natural sunscreen, hippos depend on the water to regulate their body temperature and will spend 16 hours a day within it, socializing in large herds presided over by a territorial bull. Their weight-reducing watery environment has supported the development of the hippo's bulky physique. But, despite their webbed feet, the hippopotamus cannot technically swim. Too dense to float, they remain submerged for several minutes at a time and negotiate deep water by leaping to the surface from the bottom. Unperturbed by their lack of buoyancy, hippos are so comfortable in the water that they can sleep beneath the surface, automatically rising to breathe without waking. The sheer size of adult hippopotamuses affords protection from almost all predators in their freshwater habitat. Individually, crocodiles are often forced from hippo-occupied areas. But in rare cases, cooperating crocs have successfully taken down fully grown adults. Aggressive animals, hippos do the most damage to themselves. Starting with a yawning threat display, males will often compete for dominance of a herd, inflicting significant injuries as they progress to fighting with their enlarged canines. Classed as a vulnerable species, hippo numbers are declining throughout Africa, with their meat considered a delicacy and their teeth a valuable substitute for elephant ivory. Poaching is a major concern. Agriculture is also an issue, with irrigation reducing the waterways. Conservation efforts targeting illegal hunting and habitat preservation are slowing the decline, But more is required to ensure the future of this extraordinary creature. One of two species of crocodile found in Australia. In order to survive here, the smaller freshwater crocodile has adapted to a more specialized freshwater existence. Despite their name, freshwater crocodiles are tolerant of saltwater, but in shared habitat with the larger, more aggressive saltwater crocodile, they are outcompeted, even preyed upon. And while their saltwater cousins are more widely distributed throughout the world, freshies are endemic to northern Australia and have evolved to occupy more peripheral freshwater environments. A modestly sized species of crocodilian, male freshwater crocodiles rarely grow longer than 3 meters and weigh around 70 kilograms. While it is not the top predator within its range, the freshwater crocodile's more compact stature means it can survive in water systems that will not support larger predators, granting it de facto dominance in these niche habitats. Their slender build affords access to areas that saltwater crocs cannot reach, such as arid, rocky, or more elevated freshwater systems. And because freshwater crocodiles are relatively sociable, they can live within these environments in large groups. With unusually long, slender snouts, freshwater crocs are capable of extracting prey from tight spots, such as rock crevices or submerged root systems. With smaller, sharper teeth than saltwater crocodiles, freshies tend to target smaller prey and will feed on just about every bite-sized creature their freshwater environment has to offer, particularly frogs and insects. Larger meals are not out of the question, and freshies employ a sit-and-wait strategy to take prey visiting the water to drink. Even bats skimming the water's surface are vulnerable to attack from this opportunistic predator. In the tropics, the low water levels of the dry season can fragment waterways and deplete their resources. Given their lighter build, freshwater crocodiles are able to walk efficiently with their bodies and tails raised above the ground, covering considerable distance overland in search of more viable habitat. When threatened, they can run at a gallop for short distances, heading for the safety of the water. Legally protected within their range, freshwater croc numbers are nonetheless declining due to an introduced species of frog. Cane toads were deliberately released in Australia in the 1930s, in a failed bid to control cane beetles within sugar plantations. Gradually spreading across the country, these poisonous frogs are lethal to many species that make the mistake of eating them, freshwater crocodiles chief among them. With the frogs all but unstoppable, it is hoped the crocodiles are learning to avoid this invasive threat. A seemingly inexhaustible commodity, freshwater is in fact a scarce presence on our planet. While only 3% of the Earth's water is fresh, the majority of that small amount is frozen or trapped underground, with just a fraction flowing on the surface. Due to man's over-exploitation of this precious resource, freshwater animals face projected extinction rates 5 times higher than creatures on land. In this episode, we have seen elegant great egrets, waterborne dragonflies, the peculiar platypus, unruly hippopotamuses, and specialized freshwater crocodiles. For the future of these creatures, of countless others, and of humanity, it is imperative that freshwater, the giver of life, be steadfastly protected. Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. Formed by volcanism and the clashing of tectonic plates, mountains are dramatic and varied landscapes, largely uninhabited by man. With increasing elevation creating distinctive habitat bands, each mountain can be host to several distinctive microclimates, from densely forested foothills to seemingly barren peaks. Here, even different aspects of the same slope can bring about stunning variance in the life that inhabits them. To occupy these challenging ranges, animals must be hardy and adaptable to change. In this episode, we learn why bears rule the mountain forests, follow the seasonal migrations of elk, experience the high life of marmots, scale the slopes with bighorn sheep, and prowl the mountain ranges with pumas. While they are among the largest terrestrial carnivores on the planet, bears have a somewhat undeserved reputation for aggression, and many of their adaptations to their environment are far from ferocious. Weighing upwards of half a ton and armed with sharp, retractable claws, there are few creatures capable of taking on this apex predator, except, of course, for other bears. With 8 species found predominantly in the northern hemisphere, bears can be found occupying a range of habitats, but are most commonly associated with mountainous areas of forest. With an exceptional sense of smell, possibly better than any other mammal, this is the bear's principal sense for locating food within their often challenging habitat. And unlike most carnivores, bears' teeth are adapted to chewing significant quantities of vegetable matter, enabling them to make use of a wider range of the mountain's food resources. In the lakes and rivers of their mountain habitat, fish form a significant part of the bear's diet, and they have adopted a range of behavioral modifications in order to procure them. Wading or swimming in the waterways, bears will often fully submerge as they patrol the shallows, seeking to pin their slippery prey with their claws. When spawning events bring greater concentrations of fish, groups of normally solitary bears will gather at strategic points along the rivers. These seasonal gatherings are not without conflict, as the bears fight to claim the most desirable fishing spots. With prime real estate going to dominant males, the bears attempt to snatch the fish mid-air as they leap their way up the cascading rapids. During these boom times, bears will only eat the most nutritious parts of their catch, discarding the remainder for the scavengers that have also gathered for the feast. Avoiding the privations of the cold mountain winters, bears retreat to their dens in a form of hibernation. These dormant periods can see the bears underground for up to 200 days. With heart rates slowing to just 9 beats a minute, they will not eat, drink, or defecate the entire time. Re-emerging in the spring, pregnant females will have given birth during the winter sleep and guide their cubs into the outside world. Playful and inquisitive, the cubs will remain close by their affectionate mother's side for around 2 years. Learning the ways of their mountain habitat, they will also be protected from its dangers. Overhunting has traditionally had a devastating effect on bear populations, but today, habitat loss and fragmentation is their greatest threat. Intelligent animals, bears have displayed behavioral adaptations to avoid human contact, in some cases becoming nocturnally active and learning to scavenge from urban areas. But the reduction in wilderness inevitably reduces wildlife, and for large, wide-ranging creatures such as bears, conservation of mountain and forest habitats is the most effective means of protecting their numbers. One of the largest deer species in the world, elk are native to the forests of North America and Eastern Asia. Comfortable in a range of habitats, it is the mountains where this species has its stronghold. Having spent the summer months fattening themselves on the mountain's high grazing grounds, as winter approaches, elk move down from their elevated meadows to avoid the worst of the cold weather. The descent is a gradual one, as they make the most of the available vegetation while it lasts. Spending most of the year in small single-sex herds, during the winter, elk reunite and endure the cold months together in the sheltered valleys and woodlands around the foot of the mountain. Feeding sparingly on shrubs and tree bark, they pour through the snow in search of buried grass. The increased herd size provides increased vigilance, as scout elk take turns keeping watch for the mountain predators that are also feeling the winter's bite. Typically shedding their horns early in winter to conserve energy, when spring comes, male elk begin growing these bony structures again at a rapid rate of 2.5 centimeters a day. Reaching lengths of over 1 meter and weighing nearly 20 kilograms, when the antlers are fully developed, their protective velvet covering is stripped off by rubbing against a tree, and the bull elk are ready to begin competing for mates. Bugling to attract females and challenge rival males, the bull elk's distinctive scream-like bellowing echoes for miles around the mountain. Sizing each other up, competing bulls display their fighting prowess through posturing. If neither backs down, they will lock horns and wrestle to establish dominance. Often sustaining serious injuries, successful males may be required to fight continually in order to secure their harem of breeding females. Following the retreating snow, the elk migrate back up the mountain to return to their high grazing grounds by early summer. Here the females give birth to their young. While the spotted fawns are able to stand by the time they are just 20 minutes old, they remain especially vulnerable to predation and will remain close to their mothers until next season's offspring are produced. A resourceful species, elk have proven remarkably successful when introduced to foreign environments as far-flung as Australia. Within their native habitat, they have lost much of their original range and today exist primarily in more remote mountainous locations. The largest member of the squirrel family, the marmot, has successfully integrated with elevated mountain zones in order to live the high life. As they rise in height, mountains form distinctive habitat bands. With increased altitude comes decreased temperatures and oxygen. And moving up the mountain slopes, the vegetation becomes more stunted and sparse as the forests of the foothills give way to the bare rock of the peaks. Few mammals are equipped to survive in the tough terrain of these higher reaches. The charismatic marmot is a rare exception. Marmots are well attuned to rarefied air, with large colonies regularly living at elevations of over 4,000 meters. Of the 15 species of marmot, most eke out an existence in desolate mountain habitats by adopting a wide diet. Primarily herbivores, they target a variety of grasses and roots, even consuming moss and lichens from the exposed mountain rock. And in times of hardship, marmots have been known to hunt insects and may even resort to cannibalism. Among the most gregarious of the squirrel family, marmots tend to live in highly social groups comprised of a dominant male with several female mates and their young. While social grooming and play fights are common, the colony's most important function is watchfulness. Predated upon by the many carnivores of the mountains, marmots keep a constant eye for danger. Rising comfortably on their hind legs to stand lookout, they are in continual communication with a series of whistles, screams, and teeth chattering. Excellent diggers, marmots construct elaborate burrow systems, and more than half this creature's life can be spent underground. Maintaining a series of simple bolt holes for quick escape from predators Colonies will also construct more complicated refuges for sleeping and hibernating. While their stocky build and dense fur coat affords the marmot considerable protection from the elements, the mountain winters drive these squirrels underground for up to 8 months of the year. During this period, they will live off their fat reserves, and when they finally re-emerge, a typical marmot may have lost up to 2/3 of its body weight. Having evolved so successfully to inhabit their specific mountain habitat band, global warming poses a particular challenge to marmots. Warmer temperatures can reduce the mountain's already limited vegetation, and marmot populations have been recorded relocating to higher zones. Marmot numbers, for the most part, remain healthy around the world, but there is only so much mountain for this specialized creature to climb. A true mountain specialist, the bighorn sheep boasts an array of adaptations that see it prosper where few others dare to tread. Native to North America, bighorn sheep make their home on the steep, uneven mountainsides, avoiding predators by occupying a range that most creatures find difficult or impossible to negotiate. Feeding in alpine meadows, they fearlessly take on rugged cliff faces and treacherous gravelly slopes with remarkable sure-footedness. Related to mountain goats, bighorn sheep display many shared adaptations for their mountain-faring lifestyle. Split hooves conform to hug uneven surfaces, while rough hoof bottoms provide natural grip. Keen vision aids in navigating precarious passages, and uncanny balance allows the sheep to stand on rock ledges just a few centimeters wide. Capable of jumping 6 meters, bighorns can scale uphill or descend steep stretches at unmatched speeds. So innate are the bighorn's climbing skills that within a day of birth, newborns can keep pace with the herd. Feeding on seasonally available forage, during the warmer months bighorns favour grasses, while cold winters will see them switch to more woody plant life. For the desert-dwelling bighorns, cactus varieties provide an abundant food source year-round. The distinctive curved horns of the males can weigh up to 14 kilograms, as much as the rest of the bones in their entire body. Head-butting competitions are a means of establishing dominance within the herd and securing mating rights during breeding season. Lunging into the clashes, the crack of horns can be heard throughout the mountains, with some fights lasting for hours. While resistant to the cold, bighorns are not able to travel through deep snow, and during winter they move to the lower regions of the mountains, favouring slopes with limited snow buildup. A versatile species, bighorns have also adapted to survive in the mountains of the desert. Scaling the red rock promontories, they are found at elevations of 1,200 meters. In this climate, the sheep have evolved to withstanding scorching temperatures and are able to attain most of their water from the plants they eat. With a population believed to have once been over 2 million, by the early 20th century, hunting and introduced diseases from domestic livestock had reduced bighorn numbers to just several thousand. But the bighorn is a conservation success story. With hunting restrictions, game reserves, and reintroduction programs, increasing numbers and saving the species from falling over the precipice. A creature of many names, the puma, also commonly known as the cougar, is highly attuned to prowling the mountain ranges and ambushing unwary prey. Occupying the largest range of any wild animal in the Americas, the puma has come to be known by more names than any other creature in the natural world. Proving adaptable to almost every type of habitat they encounter, as their mountain lion moniker suggests, it is the mountains where they are most at home. Like most felines, pumas are solitary creatures. Establishing individual territories, they prefer regions with dense vegetation or rocky cover to launch ambush attacks, utilizing their enlarged, retractable clawed front paws to clutch their prey. With proportionally the largest hind legs of the cat family, the puma is granted enhanced climbing and sprinting ability and can leap easily over challenging mountain terrain. More active at night and around dawn or dusk, pumas spend the majority of daylight hours at rest. Those that are spotted during the day are more likely young males who can roam vast distances as they seek out a suitable range away from the established territory of dominant males. These searching journeys can even see the cats crossing substantial bodies of water, albeit reluctantly. Active year-round, pumas are generalist predators and will eat any animal they can catch, from small insects to large game. Capable of dragging prey several times their own weight, pumas maximize their feeding by hiding their kills from other mountain carnivores, returning to eat over a period of days. Unlike many carnivores, pumas are unlikely to engage in scavenging behavior, rarely consuming prey they have not killed themselves. Parenting is solely the domain of female pumas, and they are noted for their fiercely protective behavior around their cubs. Born with spots, the cubs will remain reliant on their mother for around 2 years, learning how to stalk and hunt before striking out on their own. A mysterious animal, puma numbers are subject to speculation. But, although persecuted as a pest species in parts of their range, their wide distribution across the Americas and ability to adapt to various habitats are positive factors in their favor. Spectacular geological features in their own right, mountains are home to a diversity of wildlife. And in this episode, we have seen the mighty bear, the roving elk, resourceful marmots, sure-footed bighorn sheep, and sly pumas. Playing a crucial role in determining the weather patterns and climate of their surrounding lands, some mountains are continuing to rise, while other ranges are slowly shrinking, weathered away by wind and water. Historically protected by their inaccessibility, mountains today are increasingly exploited for their resources through logging and mining. Preserving these magnificent landscapes is an ongoing effort, and one that is vital to the life they contain and the surrounding life that they influence. Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. The island of Madagascar. Stretching for nearly 600,000 square kilometers, this huge landmass spans tropical jungles, dry forests, mountainous highlands, and arid deserts. A landscape so large and diverse, it has been called the eighth continent. Splitting from the Indian Peninsula approximately 88 million years ago, life on Madagascar has evolved in relative isolation. Today, 80% of the island's plants and 90% of its animals are found nowhere else on Earth. In this episode, we explore the wildlife of this biodiversity hotspot to discover how lemurs have found success through diversification. Go between land and water with mudskippers, learn the specialized adaptations of eyes, witness the chameleon's unique hunting technique, and study how mongooses have evolved to meet the particular challenges of the island. Unarguably, the most famous animal inhabitants of Madagascar are its playful and intriguing lemurs. And there is good reason for their success on the island. With the dry conditions of the east and the moist environment of the west, Madagascar encompasses a range of climates and geographic zones. Diversifying over millions of years, lemurs today boast around 100 species, each specializing to fill the niche island's varied habitats. All lemurs are proficient climbers, with some species displaying particularly acrobatic inclinations. The Shafak lemur, for example, is so specially adapted to a life of vertically clinging and leaping amid the trees that they must adopt an odd sideways hopping motion during their rare visits to the ground. Perhaps the most recognizable of Madagascar's lemurs are the ringtails. Unusual among the species, ringtails spend more time on the ground than in the trees. This adaptation to a terrestrial lifestyle means that they avoid competition over the canopy's limited resources, finding ample fruit and foliage on the ground below. Whether on the ground or in the trees, the majority of lemur species live in groups up to 30 members strong. However, the social hierarchy of lemurs has a significant difference from that of other primates around the world, with lemur groups led by females. Debate continues as to the reason behind female dominance, but with reproduction having a high cost, on an island with limited resources, it is beneficial for those bearing that cost to be in charge. During Madagascar's dry season, food and water regularly become scarce commodities. Having evolved a low metabolic rate, lemurs are able to cope with the uncertainties of the island's resources. The characteristic sun-basking behavior of many species helps reduce heat loss and conserve energy, allowing these creatures to subsist on a lean diet. With an excellent sense of smell, scent communication is an important component of lemur society, marking territories and advertising virility during the breeding season. Their long snouts distinguish lemurs from most primates. But contrary to popular belief, this does not aid in their acute sense of smell. Instead, the lemur's extended snout increases chewing power, allowing access to a broad and flexible diet across the island. Since the arrival of humans on Madagascar, at least 17 lemur species have become extinct. Today, with increases in hunting and habitat loss, the island's growing human population threatens 90% of the remaining species. A vital animal within Madagascar's many ecosystems, increased conservation efforts are required to protect this flagship species. On the mudflats of Madagascar, there is a true fish out of water, the mud skipper. With almost 5,000 kilometers of coastline, Madagascar is home to extensive and teeming mangrove forests. Here, with the rising and falling of the tides, life has evolved to flourish in a world of constant change. Adopting an amphibious lifestyle, mud skippers are the ultimate mangrove survivors. The only fish to spend as much time out of the water as in it, their enlarged pectoral fins are adapted to swimming and walking, even to climbing. Over 30 species of mudskipper are found in mangroves from West Africa to New Guinea. Able to breathe through their skin, this is only possible in moist conditions, and the humid mudflaps of Madagascar's west coast are an ideal environment for this unique creature. Using their enlarged gill chambers to carry water in the same way scuba divers carry oxygen, their ability to venture across the land provides feeding opportunities beyond the reach of other fish. A thriving ecosystem, Madagascar's intertidal zone provides an abundant food source for carnivorous mudskippers. Perfectly adapted to the interface between land and water, they actively hunt for insects, sandworms, and crustaceans. But the land comes with a new set of dangers, and mudskippers are vulnerable to predation from water snakes and wetland birds. With large, high-set eyes, these walking fish are afforded a 360-degree view, remaining vigilant to land-based threats. This distinctive adaptation also assists in hunting, and mudskippers often swim with their heads above water as they scan for prey. A territorial species, mudskippers become particularly assertive around breeding time. With disputes a common occurrence, gaping mouth poses and fanning fins are used as threat displays in order to establish and defend territorial boundaries. The breeding season also sees mudskippers excavate watery burrows. Reaching over a metre deep, and often with several entrances, they are dug painstakingly, one mouthful at a time. Eggs are laid deep in the burrow, out of reach of terrestrial predators. The doting parent aerating the water for their young by carrying in mouthfuls of air. Able to tolerate many toxic substances in their environment, perhaps the greatest challenge to mudskippers and the mangrove forests they inhabit is sea level rise. Specialized for life in an intertidal zone, mudskippers are being driven into new territory by rising water levels, and the question of just how far these changes will push them remains unanswered. The world's largest nocturnal primate, the ii, uses the cover of darkness to feed in a manner that is unique on this most unique of islands. As the sun sets over the Madagascan rainforest, ii emerge from their daytime slumber. Perhaps the most specialized lemurs on the island, the ii has evolved an exceptional tool set to skillfully forage the trees by night. Found predominantly in the rainforests along the east coast of Madagascar, iis have developed a technique known as percussive foraging, allowing them access to a largely untapped food source. Moving dexterously about the trees, the ii uses its elongated middle finger to knock repeatedly against the wood. With enlarged, highly sensitive ears, these specialized lemurs listen for the presence of wood-boring insects and grubs beneath the surface. With their prey detected, rodent-like teeth are employed to chew a hole through the wood. Deftly reaching a long, thin finger into the narrow opening, their previously hidden food is promptly brought to the surface for consumption. Not only does this singular technique provide the ii with a protein source inaccessible to other lemurs, it also aids in the health of the rainforest, protecting the trees from mass infestations of wood-eating insects. Despite their grub hunting specialty, these primates are not restricted to percussive foraging. Freely availing themselves to the variety of food on offer in the rainforest canopy, their bony fingers are just as useful in scraping the flesh from coconuts and the other fruits that supplement their diet. Thought to have been extinct for over 20 years, since being rediscovered in the 1950s, aye-ayes have remained on the endangered list. Traditionally believed to be harbingers of evil, casting death with the point of a finger, such superstitions persist today. And with deforestation forcing more of these primates into cultivated areas, conflict with humans is on the rise. The key to saving this species from a second extinction lies in protecting their rainforest habitats. Home to approximately 2/3 of the world's chameleon species, Madagascar is a haven for these distinctively adapted lizards. Part of the iguana suborder, there is a debate as to whether chameleons migrated to Madagascar from Africa or whether the species evolved on the island itself. What is certain is that this reptile has thrived here like nowhere else, and from dense jungle rainforest to dry deciduous woodlands, Madagascar provides chameleons a range of preferred habitat. With Madagascar providing an abundance of insect species, chameleons have evolved a specialized adaptation in order to hunt them. Firing their suction cup tongues, they ensnare their unfortunate victims with incredible accuracy. With a reach up to twice their body length, these lizards are capable of striking prey from considerable distance in just a fraction of a second. So effective is this hunting method that larger chameleons are able to take down other lizards and even young birds. Making full use of Madagascar's forests, like so many vertebrates on the island, chameleons are highly adapted to a tree-climbing lifestyle. The particular tongue-like structure of their toes provides excellent grip on a range of surfaces, from rough tree trunks to narrow branches. Fused eyelids give the chameleon's eyes their unusual appearance, and these reptiles have some of the most attuned vision of all lizards. Moving each eye independently of the other, chameleons hunt for prey while simultaneously keeping watch for the many predators of the Madagascan wilderness. With a full 360-degree view, they are also able to enlarge their point of focus, similar to a camera lens. Among the few animals able to change the color of their skin, contrary to popular belief, chameleons rarely use this adaptation for camouflage. Instead, color displays are used to communicate emotions, whether performing threat displays or advertising their virility. These highly visual lizards are able to clearly signify their intentions to other chameleons. Growing continually throughout their lives, chameleons shed their skin in sections to accommodate their growth. In the teeming ecosystem of Madagascar, this has the added benefit of removing any parasites that may have settled on their skin. Due to deforestation, many species of chameleon are currently threatened with extinction around the world. In the case of Madagascar, this is of great concern, with agriculture and settlement clearing much of the island's original habitat. Yet the island continues to surprise. With the recent discovery of a new chameleon species, the smallest in the world, hope remains that Madagascar can continue to be a haven for this fascinating species. Of Madagascar's native carnivores, the mongoose family remains a relative newcomer, but has evolved to occupy the full range of the island's varied habitats. Known as the Eupleridae family, the 10 living members on Madagascar are thought to have evolved from a single ancestor, arriving on the isolated island around 20 million years ago. Since that time, the species has evolved and split into the distinctive subfamilies that exist today. Mostly social animals, the 6 mongoose species of the Eupleridae family have spread to inhabit Madagascar's range of ecosystems, from the humid rainforests in the east to the arid spiny forests of the south, and the dry deciduous woodland of the west. Largely ground-dwelling creatures, mongooses are excellent diggers and excavate complex tunnel systems which serve to avoid predators and, importantly, to regulate temperature. Often occupying exposed terrain, the fur-covered mongoose avoids the worst of the Madagascan heat by retreating to the cool of its subterranean shelter. Digging is also used in sourcing much of the mongoose's varied diet, targeting the island's insects and rodents, as well as earthworms and lizards. The mongoose's long, sleek body with its tapered snout allows it to work its way into seemingly inaccessible spaces to capture prey. A relative of the mongoose and fellow member of the Eupleridae family, the fossa is the largest mammalian carnivore on Madagascar. This cat-like hunter has evolved to target another of the island's endemic inhabitants, lemurs. Hunting by day or night, the fossa nimbly scales trees with its semi-retractable claws and highly flexible ankles. Above the ground, a long tail aids in agility, and muscular limbs grant it power to leap among the branches in pursuit of its quarry. The dominant predator of all lemur species on the island, the primates make up 50% of the fossa's diet. However, displaying a dietary flexibility on par with their aerial acrobatics, these widespread carnivores play a significant ecological role, controlling the population densities of its many prey species. the most widespread of Madagascar's carnivores, fossors are generally found in low numbers. Sensitive to man-made disturbance, with the continued loss of the island's pristine habitats, this rare species is classed as vulnerable. Cut off from the rest of the world for tens of millions of years, the life that has evolved on this vast, environmentally diverse island is unlike anything else on the planet. In this episode, we have seen lively lemurs, slippery mudskippers, night-stalking aye-ayes, colourful chameleons, and crafty mongooses. But man's influence on this unique island ecosystem is threatening its future, with over 90% of Madagascar's original forest having been lost. The pressures of a growing population and damaging agriculture practices continue to jeopardize the island's biodiversity. Conservation efforts in the form of nature reserves and sustainable farming practices are providing an alternative, and there is hope that Madagascar's rare habitat can be restored, along with the irreplaceable wildlife it supports.